Here we go.
G'day fans and welcome back to another exciting Wednesday night. Geez, these episodes come around that damn quickly. What is the deal, Mr. Aaron, who's joining me tonight? What is the go? Tell me all about it.
What I want to know, do Dave and Ange have, hey, how's it going, guys, ready to hit enter as soon as we log on, or do they wait till we show up? It's been a busy, crazy day, and we've got 2 hours ahead of us talking about nerdy things and popular culture.
Very good stuff. Now, normally we would like to just have a bit of a quick natter about what's been going on in the universe. And just before we went on air, I'll tell you a very, very funny story. The science fiction series Halo has been out for the past few weeks, right? And I was keen to see, because if you're a game player of Halo, which most people have been for the past 20 years, I was thought it worth checking out. So I watched it and I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good. But Aaron got told by one of his cohorts, oh, no, it's complete tripe, don't watch it, right? And Aaron listened to him. I thought, dude, why did you listen to me? I know what the hell I'm talking about. So Aaron watched it because I said it was really good. And now, what do you say?
It was complete tripe. No, I loved it. It was really good.
So there you go. Listen to people who know their nerdy stuff. Sorry, I cut you off. What was that?
Dags was right.
Absolutely, I was. So there you go. So yes, disgruntled ex-gaming players, they got no freaking idea what they're talking about. So yes, if you haven't seen Halo, and if you can divorce yourself from the fact that it's a based on the game, and if you're really devoted to the game, you may struggle with it. But the actual show itself was really good. The world building was excellent, and you can clearly see it's a damn expensive show to produce. So what do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, just a tiny review. I was impressed because had multiple characters. They all had good, solid arcs. Everyone was given a lot to do, and it resolved nicely with enough mystery as to what goes on for next season.
Absolutely love it. Couldn't have said it better myself. And you're right, Rusky Babes. Hey, it's Wednesday. I can't believe we're around again. Oh my God! And of course, we've got we got some announcements to make later on this evening. So don't disappear, everybody, because it's some very, very exciting stuff that's occurring. Speaking of which, I just wanted to say a bit of a shout out to the lads who've been doing the Toys on Trial show. They were on last night in your store, as it were, talking about Transformers, and next week they will be discussing G.I. Joe, but it was a bit of a shout out to them, saying that hopefully they're enjoying themselves and the people are supporting them and watching what they're up to. And yeah, pretty good stuff. What do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, I hope everyone's supporting it. It's a good little show that's just taken off, and it'll probably go really fast as it's only like a 6-weeker. So if you haven't checked it out, take time out to support the boys.
Good stuff. Mr. Thomas has joined us. Hope everyone is awesome. Isn't that what like Lego was supposed to be? Especially when you're part of a team. Is that right, Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, everything is awesome.
I always love that. Yeah, everything is awesome when you're a part of a team. It's like, yeah, I've worked on some teams that have been complete knobs, but let's not worry about that, shall we? So there you go. Even Colin said, yes, ripped off the card brought to you by Halo. Yes, exactly right. When the new action figures of Halo come out, it'll be curious to see if they sell or not. What do you reckon, Mr. Aaron? You reckon it's a gold mine just waiting to be discovered?
I'm thinking the way the people who play Halo have reacted to the to the show, maybe it's more of a fool's gold mine, but who can tell?
Yes, exactly right. But anyway, we shall wait with bated breath for if that eventuality eventuates. So there you go. Anyway, we have to move on. We've got a lot to cover off tonight, as is often the case. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so what are we talking about tonight, Mr. Aaron? Now, you got no idea what order I've put all these pictures in, so how about I kick it off for you? I have to say, when I first saw this, I thought, what the fruikin' hell is this? And it's from the Mandalorian, and I thought, who is this knob?
Well, I kind of had to put this off. I don't know if this is a Celebration exclusive or a Comic-Con exclusive, but this hit the net today, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's a Jon Favreau figure.
What is the deal with that? Did he play Paz Vizsla? I had to look this up with the magnifying glass of truth. It's like, did he actually play the character in the show, or they've just done this as a joke?
I don't think it's a joke. I just think it's one of those things when you've got that much power in the Star Wars universe. You know, George Lucas made himself into a stormtrooper, and then his family into those delegates, and now we've got Jon Favreau. Now we just need a Kathleen Turner, and we've got Kathleen Kennedy, and we've got the lot.
Very good. Now, for those who don't know who this guy is, I don't mean Jon Favreau, because you would have seen him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he's a director and all that. But the character appeared in, dare I say, the Book of Boba Fett / The Mandalorian, the episode when they're on Glavis, I think it is, and he's the dude who wants to steal the Darksaber off Din Djarin and it cracks the shits because he loses. And for whatever reason, stuck Jon Favreau's head on top of the body. So it's actually made Paz Vizsla, who was a bit of a tough cook in the show, a real wimp. And of course, the fact they've taken his helmet off, which in the show, Paz Vizsla said he's never done that in his entire life. That's just completely stupefied the entire thing. What do you reckon?
I just want to know, how do Mandalorians shave?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And why does Din Djarin, our famous Mandalorian himself, have a mustache? What is the deal with that? Moneybag Sullivan, he was the voice of Paz. Oh, okay. And there you go. That explains it. So, very good stuff. And even Gavin is sort of thinking about it himself. Yeah, whatever. So, Christy said, yeah, what the heck? I totally agree. This is completely stupid. But anyway, not to worry. What? Love Roger, those blue eyes. Yeah, right. Okay. Good on you. Roger. So very, very cool. Anyway, so if you've got nothing better to do, pick yourself up a dodgy looking Paz Vizsla. That is, it's almost like useless Mandalorian figure of the week when you sit and think about it, eh?
It really is.
Yes.
But if you were in charge of Star Wars, you'd probably get a figure made of you, wouldn't you?
Well, exactly right. Now, Ange, I've got a quick answer for you. He never takes it off. What happens when he sneezes? The answer to that question, it's actually been canonized. What happens is there's windscreen wipers inside the helmet. They go and clean it off, and everybody's good to go. It's when you use the window washers, when they spray the water, that's when you end up with a little problem. So, yes, very, very cool. Will there be a pop? Let's hope not. So, yes, very, very cool.
I'm sure there will be then, if that's the case.
Yes. Oh, yeah, if you want dodgy, ask Ronnie. Well, Ronnie's coming up a bit later on. Don't you worry about that. In the meantime, we're talking about action figures and stuff. What was this? You gave me 2 pictures of this, and I didn't know what it was.
Well, these were the only 2 released there. Playmates Toys have released 2 of their sort of franchise mix-ups. Street Fighter versus Ninja Turtles action figures. They come in sort of a box that looks like the levels from Street Fighter. So you've got that sort of weird matchup, what they've done before with Karate Kid, and we've seen them with a few other different things. And this is the latest ones that they've just announced. Now, we've got a few people that collect turtles, but you don't see much Street Fighter stuff. So I thought people might grab this for the Street Fighter and sell the turtles.
Yeah, well, maybe they will too. So there you go. Colin mentioned about the soon-to-be sold in Aaron's store. We'll tell you about things that have been selling in the store very, very soon. So don't you worry about that. I agree. Like the most boring shirt you've worn yet. What's the deal with that, dude?
It's a Donkey Kong one.
Okay. Now, the hard part would be trying to work out, are you the donkey or the Kong?
I'm the princess. Come on.
Very, very good. Now that you sat back down again, you're probably sitting in the wrong spot. You may have to adjust your seating position, old son. Make sure you're nice and straight. All right. So speaking, very, very good. Speaking, I've actually worked on film shoots when I've done that with the actors. That's for sure. All right. Now speaking of really, really cool things. Okay, we've gotten through the Ninja Turtles. We've gone through the most dodgiest looking Paz Vizsla you could ever see. Now it's time for a bit of the old Scarlet Witch.
Now, here we go. If anyone doesn't want to hear spoilers about Doctor Strange, you can turn the sound down for 30 seconds. But Hot Toys have released Scarlet Witch from Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and it's another one of their amazing figures. It's comes with a bazillion and one extras and different things, so she is fully loaded with everything and looks pretty cool. Even comes with amazing glow-in-the-dark light-up eye system, which I don't think I've seen in a Hot Toy before. Now, I don't know if that's something that takes batteries or if it just is a reflective thing.
And what it is, she's going for the full Terminator look.
Yes. So, not very well known. Underneath Scarlet Witch is an endoskeleton. But exactly. As the usual high standards from Hot Toys, she looks exactly as she does in the movie. She's fully articulated, comes with different costumes, different hands, magical red crackly lightning that you see in the actual movie, and a whole lot of accessories. I don't know if that Doctor Strange that she's fighting there is going to come out, but it's a very cool picture. And then she's got the book, and she's got the different versions of her costume, and like all Hot Toys, she'll set you back about $400 or $500.
Crikeys. You could buy yourself a real witch for that price. Now, I've got a couple of questions that will be coming out. This is actually quite funny, actually. So, about your shirt, there was a thing about, hang on, the Vial has said that you're wearing a red shirt tonight, so you're obviously doing a Star Trek thing. Regarding Donkey Kong, could you be the donkey or the Kong? And then Gavin just said, why can't you be the barrel?
I can be the flaming barrel.
Yeah, and exactly right. And regarding the Scarlet Witch, I totally agree with you. Rusky Bays, hang on, wrong one. Sorry, Scarlet. I don't give a damn. Exactly right. I like a damn. I was like that's a dam with all water. You got to add an N at the end of that, dude. But yeah, it's very, very cool. And
Well, that's
you're right.
an interesting fact right there, isn't it?
Yes, very, very good stuff. All right, so if the Scarlet Witch isn't floating your boat, you've gone through Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and you've gone through dodgy-looking Mandalorians. Now, there's not to be any smart-ass comments about ex-wives and ex-girlfriends and all the rest of it, but this is a particularly good one, I've got to say. So there you go.
So this is, I think, unfortunately, because it's a very cool figure, this is a Comic-Con exclusive. So again, buying off scalpers on the internet the day after Comic-Con. But this is the female gremlin after she took the hormones in Gremlins 2. So I think her name is Greta. Greta, the female gremlin, who ends up marrying Robert Picardo at the end, isn't it? I think plays.
No idea, dude. I've only seen the movie once, and that was decades ago.
Okay. Well, usually with the Gremlins, they don't go into this much detail. It's usually, one of the standard Gremlins, and they give it a couple of different accessories to denote it's a different version of the Gremlin. But this one's a totally new sculpt with obviously real hair and real clothes. So for a NECA figure, it's quite a cool one. And if you collect Gremlins, it's definitely a different one from what you've got before. Probably this is the most unique one they've released since they did the Spider Gremlin a few years ago. So this is another cool one to add to your Gremlins collection.
Well, the funny thing is there are so many Gremlins in Gremlins, both versions. They could be producing millions of the damn things if they wanted to, ironically, just like a real Gremlin. So there you go.
Yeah.
What? Oh, hang on. Ex-girlfriend was at what? Where are you going with that? Oh, dear. Yes, exactly right. Yes, you are right, Christy. It's a trans gremlin. Now we've seen it all. Yes, yeah. When they made this back in the 80s, it was a bit more of a simpler time. What can I say? So there you go. How could you resist that bride? Quite easily is the answer to that question. So there you go. But you could certainly wrap your lips around those chips. That's for sure. So
I don't know. My favorite color is green.
Oh, well, there you go. Then you got to be green to be seen. What can I say? All right. So if dodgy ass Mandalorians isn't the go, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle things with Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter or whatever it was, and Gremlins and all that other stuff isn't floating your boat, then clearly it's got to be this
Useless Pop of the Week.
All right, we've got an absolute ripper tonight. What do we got, Mr. Aaron?
Well, are we going to reveal it without saying who it is first? Have we got that single picture of it just to see?
No, I just put the one picture in. But if you want to give me a minute, I can probably dig it out. No, it's all right. We'll just go with it. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. So I'll go with you. So the idea is, fans, we're going to show you the picture of the item with the box so you can see what it is. But if you saw the item by itself, you'd be thinking, what the hell is it?
Yes. So, no, it isn't one of our viewers. It's Muncher from the new Ghostbusters.
Lucky you said the viewers are not one of our hosts.
Well, it could have been the Vial sending us another custom of one of our viewers. I'm not going to speculate as to who, but it is one of those things where when I first saw it, I'm like, what is that meant to be? And then I looked at it a bit more and I thought, I still don't know what this is meant to be. And then when you see it's Muncher from Ghostbusters Afterlife, you kind of go, oh, yeah. But to me, that looked absolutely nothing like the ghost that appeared in the actual movie. And they've just got like some blob that doesn't even look like a pop vinyl. They've put a couple of random accessories. I don't know if that's meant to be a hubcap or some piping or something with it. And they've said, there you go, it's a pop vinyl. So that is one of the more useless recent pops that they've made, a chubby Dr. Ham.
So the Viola said it's a chubby Dr. Manhattan. Now, of course, for those who know Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan was naked, right, the whole time. So luckily, this dude has a has something in front of him. So you are right. It's as Aaron said to me when he sent this through today, he said we've got ourselves a blue turd.
Yeah, he had a modesty screen, so that's pretty lucky if it's like the baby version of Dr. Manhattan.
Yes, exactly right. Thomas is already saying he's losing his wine tonight. So, yes, we've got some good stuff coming up. So you should be enjoying that. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Butters Buddha is holding his breath that way. He's blue. Yes, I do like the Dr. Manhattan thing. I think that's kind of groovy. Yes, and Rusky Babe said it as well. A blue Buddha. Yeah, very good. And Christy's got no idea what to make of it. So yeah, I get that. So what do you reckon?
Yeah. I think that's her reaction every week to seeing pop vinyls, though, isn't it? It's a lot of our reactions.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do look at it and you go, mate, that is complete tripe. So as these things often are, and as we said a while ago, they're now starting to run out of ideas. So they're just churning this stuff out. Oh, yeah, we're good. Thrawn. It's a Grand Admiral Thrawn from Star Wars. Yeah. Anything blue will make it fake its way into this particular conversation, which is particularly groovy. Now, we've got some exciting stuff to cover off regarding this, and you're going to love it, kids. All right, Mr. Aaron. Now, I think we're kicking things off, if I'm not mistaken, by the fact that something, the capitalist dog that you are, has sold something.
We did. And it is one of those things where myself, Dicko, and Dags were in the shop when the customer bought this, and all of us were biting our tongue trying not to laugh. We actually sold the wooden Hellraiser puzzle box, which I really thought would never sell at all. I got my money back for this because it was so crap, and PayPal agreed that it was a piece of crap. And we put it in the Greg King cabinet, but Greg King worked his magic. Someone saw it, decided that they didn't have that version of the puzzle cube, and bought it on the weekend. So there you go. Trash to treasure instantly. Greg King, you've done it again.
So Moneybag Sullivan said, really? Now, I was actually in the store, and I actually took it out of the cabinet to show the dude, right? And he said, oh, I've got to have a look at that. And I said, I was trying to say, dude, it is cheap shit. It's just a wooden box. It's made out of wood. It's just been painted. It's nothing special at all. And he's having a look, and I took it apart like you saw in the picture. And he goes, yep, that's really cool. I'm a Hellraiser dude. I like collecting my cubes. And as the guy was walking around the store, I looked at Aaron. He just said, oh, Greg King, you've done it again. And the guy freaking bought it. And of course, as soon as he bought it and walked out the store, I said, Darren, you're not going to go out and buy another one of these bloody things now, are you? And he goes, yeah.
So, yes, he saw it. He got it out. And Dags was doing his best at being an anti-salesperson by going, oh, it's just a bit of a joke. It's just a wooden one. Doesn't really work. And the guy goes, I haven't got that version.
It was just so funny. I thought, dude, it is complete cheap shit. What are you spending money on this for? But he actually did. So, yes. And Gavin said he got more than his money back. The capitalist woofer that Aaron is, he got more than he got a bit of a profit too.
The great thing about that one was I claimed the money back from PayPal. So anything I sold it for was profit. I had, I think, $29 on it, and I felt sorry for the guy. So I gave it to him for $25. I think
he gave him a discount. How about that? Absolutely love it. I thought, oh, I can knock a couple of bucks off you for you, dude. It's all good. Oh dear. And you are right, Mr. Thomas. Yes, yeah, of course, Thomas bought the Maltese dragon that he was there. And of course, then we got the Maltese budgie. So in the end, Aaron ended up with 2 items for the one order, which is, yes, very good stuff. So absolutely love it. But it was just the reaction at the time. I was like, oh my God, this dude's going to buy this. It's like, dude, what are you doing? But anyway, all good stuff. Yes, he did. He saw him coming in with a $4 discount. Yes. Very good stuff. Oh, I like this one. Dax, dodgy Aaron's click. It's not Aaron, it's Greg King who's doing the selling. What can I say? Good stuff. Anyway, sorry?
It's Greg King. That's who it is. Blame him. Now, talking about things that haven't turned up yet, my small home for Hobbit hasn't turned up, and my piranha plant, or the Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors, hasn't turned up. What has turned up in the time that I've paid for this 3 times and it hasn't turned up, I sold a couple of critters, and they were so popular, I ordered more of them, and within a week, my replacement critters have come from Crite or China, whichever you prefer. But I've already pre-sold one of these. So these babies have been gold.
Greg King's done it again and again.
And again. But no, my small Hobbit home, my very lucky one that's meant to be sent about 3 times now, has not turned up. So anyone who hasn't been up to date on this, there's been a bit of back and forth, and the customer rep from AliExpress is Ronnie, and he's got about 3 lots of payment off of me for various reasons, and we're up to the point where I've told him I don't want to pay anymore.
All right. So before we get into the current correspondence, I thought it was so funny when Aaron said he sold the critters, ordered new ones, right, and they're walking off the shelves. These unbelievable. So these dodgy vendors overseas are actually like churning a bit of a profit over in this part of the world, which is an absolute classic. And you're right, Thomas. Is Greg King getting a decent commission? Of course not.
We're not talking about that. Like, move along.
That's why I said Aaron needs to wear a T-shirt of like a dog with dollar bills hanging out of its mouth, because he's a capitalist dog. So absolutely fantastic. All right, so the Hobbit home hasn't turned up, and we've got the correspondence between Ronnie and Aaron, and of course we end up with the absolute finale that is an absolute ripper. So we're just going to show you this. We've got to read through it all. So, Mr. Aaron, over to you. This is what you wrote to him.
Oh, this is what he wrote back to me, because
sorry, my mistake. Yeah.
No problem. Last week I said I wasn't going to send any more money. Hey, Aaron, I'm not sure why you would think we will send you more without the cost of shipping. You said you had been waiting for Hobbit Home and then got 2 horror items. Now, the horror items weren't even sent by them. They were a different company. I just made it up that they came from them. This is very fair. If you would like the Hobbit Home still, I think you should send me $9.95 to cover our time and postage. Then you will get the lucky Hobbit Home and we will all be happy. All the best, Ronnie.
Now, the key thing of this, for those who've been following this story for a while, a couple of weeks ago, Ronnie said he sent the item, right? It's on its way to you. And then last week, he cocked up and said, oh, if you send the money, we'll ship it to you really quickly, which means it hasn't been sent. So clearly, there's a bit of dodgy stuff going on here. So the item hasn't been sent. And now Ronnie's saying to Aaron, he needs to cop up. You need to cop up another $9.95. So this is what Aaron wrote back to Ronnie.
Dear Ronnie, how is it fair? I have paid for something 3 times now and keep getting the wrong item. I think I've had enough. I haven't got Hobbit Home. I haven't got Piranha Decoration without Pop Movie Prop Horror Halloween Unique Flower Accessory. And you keep asking me to send more money. I think it is safe to say that you are naughty and that I have to do a PayPal clam. I think that should have been claimed to get my money back, as I do not think my products are coming. All the best, your friend Aaron.
So yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, you're pushing it all forward and see what the lad has to say. And of course, as Aaron said, the 2 items that he got did not come from Ronnie; they came from somewhere else. Now Ronnie's claiming that they're his. It's an absolute classic, and they are actually just for display in the store if you want to buy them. But we move on. All right, so this is what Ronnie wrote back to Aaron.
Hi, Aaron. We are not naughty. I forgot about waiting for Piranha Decoration without Pop Movie Prop Horror Halloween Unique Flower Accessory. It will be with you soon. Hobbit Home will be with you soon. This is our guarantee. Everything will be with you soon. Please do not do a PayPal return. This would be bad for our friendship and may put you in danger of never being able to order from us again. Neither of us want that, do we? All the best, Ronnie.
So they're trying to save face rather than just sending the damn products. So, yes. And with that, I'm just going to chuck this in. Ronnie's emails. I'm wondering if he has his own show, maybe ripping it off the customers. Absolutely. And a segment called Sending Customers Cheaper Things that he's posting these email responses in his show. Yeah, exactly right. So he still hasn't, and as the trend of this thing, he still hasn't fessed up that they've cocked up at their end. He's just trying to scam his way out of it, asking you for more money. So there you go. Right, Gavin. Ronnie has friends. All right, so this is what Aaron wrote back to Ronnie.
Dear Ronnie, I too would hate to lose our friendship. We have built up over many emails. It seems like just yesterday I was complaining about getting an ornamental stone dragon instead of a Maltese falcon prop replica, but many complaints later, and we are still corresponding, and I'm still no closer to getting my lucky home for hobbits. You are a true online friend, and I know you try to help me. This is why I would not do a PayPal return yet. All the best, your friend Aaron.
Jesus Christ, that's so funny. Oh, God, I love it. Very good. Here's long distance relationship scams. Oh, God, it's great. All right, so what we have here is what's coming up is what Ronnie wrote back to Aaron, and then we're going to reveal the final bit of correspondence that Aaron wrote back to Ronnie. And everybody's watching this episode now. You're going to love it. It's an absolute ripper. You are right, email pals. Aaron. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, so this is Ronnie's response back to Aaron.
Dear Aaron, thank you very much for your trusting. You will never be disappointed. You will be happy when you get your items and be pleased with them very much. All the best, Ronnie.
All right, so that's the response there. So, Aaron, obviously you couldn't hold yourself back any longer and decided to give him the kicker. And this is what Aaron has written back. We haven't heard from Ronnie yet, to the best of my knowledge.
Hi, Ronnie. I thought you may be interested that I'm part of a show that rates and reviews internet purchases. It is called Rip It Off the Card, and we broadcast it every Wednesday night. The sole Greg King is in charge of looking into internet scammers, and we'll tell our millions of followers that what is safe and not safe to buy online. We have been highlighting your products over the many weeks and I have been chatting with you. All the best, your friend Aaron.
Loved it. And he hasn't responded yet. Is that correct?
No, I do find it ironic that Ronnie is probably using Google Translate and his spelling is better than mine.
You are right. Ronnie better throw in an extra necklace after this. For those who don't know what that we're referring to, Aaron ordered a product like a few weeks ago, and he actually got sent a necklace, which wasn't even remotely close to what it was meant to be. So unbelievable. And you're right, Thomas. Yeah, we finally stick it to him. Awesome. And so my thought was Ronnie's going to be going, who? What? We're being rated. We're on an online show.
Well, I didn't put it in that discussion, but I sent him a link to last week's episode, so maybe Ronnie checked us out.
Yeah, well, the good thing is if you do watch on this show on YouTube, there are chapter points. So if you want to, you can just jump straight to it. You won't know. You might see Greg King's Cheaper Things and just jump straight to that. And what an absolute classic. So there you go. And we're going to chuck in our last picture with more critters that are coming in. So,
yes. So that's just for everyone what we've accumulated so far, with a lot of other stuff in Greg's garage. But nothing arrived this week. We're still waiting for a few bits and pieces, but that's where we're up to with Ronnie.
How good is that? Oh, it's just absolutely hysterical, isn't it? So you do wonder what their response will be. Waiting for Ronnie to come knocking. So yes, good stuff. As Aaron and I were discussing the other day, we don't know if Ronnie's actually a male or a female. So we're working he's a bloke, but yeah, Ronnie could be the new opposition leader. Oh, dear me. So yes, absolutely love it. All right, if you love that, and this one now with this. I'm going to say this kind of spun me out, but the Greg King's Cheaper Things was a fantastic event. There's a lot of good shit going on there, but you want to see some really good shit, you've got to go to the Lord Vile's Vile File. And I'm going to say this particular one grabbed my interest in a lot of ways, because what have we got going on, Mr. Aaron?
Well, we've got a bit of, viewer feedback from the Scarlet Letters. And a lot of the time, if the Vile gets a particularly interesting letter, he will use that as the subject for the week. We'll get to that a bit later. But we've had a few letters this week.
Now, just to confirm, these are legitimate messages. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so for anybody who's watching, we're not making these up. These are actually the real thing. So there you go.
Yeah. Dear Lord Vile, I do not know if you can use my picture on your segment. My son went to a party and they had this Vile SpongeBob balloon. All the best, Jim. Now, it isn't the hugest picture there, but it's like the trouble we've had with a few of these balloons before, where the nozzle where you inflate it is often put on the characters in a really, suspicious place. And yep, you guessed it. You're going to be blowing SpongeBob's to inflate this balloon.
We're going to say no wonder he's got a smile on his face. So yeah, that is just not whether you put it in the front or the back, it's never going to end well, is it? So
it really isn't. Like, why don't they put it on a fingertip or something like that?
Yeah, exactly right, Gavin. No wonder he's smiling. So and believe it or not, it's yes, absolutely fantastic. Yes, but it's blue. Yeah, very good. So yes, sorry, what was that?
No wonder he lives in a pineapple under the sea.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's just what can I say? He's or either that or he's just very happy to be at that party. So there you go. Exactly right. SpongeBob from Flying High was a 2. I think it was at number 1, where you had the autopilot. The autopilot actually physically inflates him as a person. Is that right?
I think all Flying Highs used the same jokes, didn't they?
Yeah, probably exactly right. So there you go. Very good stuff.
Here is a weird one, but I decided to pass it on to the Vial just because you don't get many job applications coming through the show. Dear Lord Vial, do you have any job vacancies at your Vial mansion? I'm fully qualified to do many Vial things. I hope your hopeful next apprentice, Adrian.
See, I looked at that and thought, yeah, whatever.
Now, Adrian, if you're watching, the thing is, if you want to do a real job application, you need to attach a resume, mate. You can't just say you've got Vial qualifications. At least a lot of our Vial participants send a Vial photo or something like that. So the Vial is not impressed. You've got to be a much more sucker-uppery and a bigger sycophant if you want to watch it. If you want to go and work at the Vial Villa, that's for sure.
Oh dear, that's just. I looked at that and I thought, yeah, okay, yes, I agree. Totally bizarro.
Well, the Vial is here. What chances does the Vial think that he's going to get a job? I know we're on a bit of a delay, so I'll just read this one. Dear Master Vial, I found this toy that you might like to use on the Vial file. Not only does it have a deer on the bonnet of the car, but it also sings. If you use this, you can call me Darth Filthy. So they're all coming out of the woodwork this week. It must have been a full moon somewhere, that's for sure. But
yeah, they've taken their sequence out of Starman. What can I say?
Yes. But the Vial did like this toy. It is a legit toy because the Vial looked it up and researched it. It is a shot deer on the front of a car, and when you push a button, it does come alive and sing. So,
you know what it sings? Always look on the bright side of life. Unbelievable.
Well, something like that. That'd be pretty funny.
Unbelievable. A singing deer. And they thought, oh, we're putting a dead deer on a bonnet isn't good enough. Yeah, exactly right. Oh, dear. Yes, let's make it sing because it's saying it's happy to be there. What can I say? But I'd love to see this in your store. Absolutely fantastic.
Okay, so we've got, this is the final letter for the week. Anyone who wants to participate to the Vial file, by the way, send a message to me, the shop, the Sci-Fi Zone page, or Dags, and it'll find its way. Hey, Mr. Vial, I was wondering if you could do an episode on old advertising for products that are now banned or the ads are so outdated they are offensive. All the best, Trent Simmons. So, yes, we decided we would do that. The Vial has a massive archive. In his archive, he has many offensive ads that he likes to collect and categorize and show off. So that's the topic for this week.
Good stuff. Now, of course, if you do a bit of thinking, it doesn't take much to realize that so much has changed in the past 100 years regarding product advertising. The things that were once acceptable are now like completely, no, you can't do that. But there are some things that you see and you go, holy moly, I can't even imagine that was even legitimate at the time. So absolutely fantastic. So here we go.
Vial advertising. Now, I do have to point out, and this is from the Vial and from me and Dags, we're showing the ads. These are all legitimate ads from the time. We do not endorse these ads or think they are correct. They're just something that's funny for us to laugh at now. So I just thought I'd get that out of the way before we go into it. But Vial advertising, and I tell you what, in the past, there was some very, very vile advertising. This is some of the worst. Cigarette companies telling us which cigarette brands that doctors recommend. So it was bad enough when Paul Hogan used to recommend cigarettes, but when you've got the doctors recommending them, there's something going on there, isn't there?
Yeah, actually, these days, if you said, oh, yeah, more doctors smoke Camels, people would actually think that they're smoking real camels.
Yeah.
Which hump do you light up?
Well, or another way of smoking them, but we won't go there. But
I like this one. I'll be right over. So there you go. Yeah, if you're interested, yes. If you want to be a docky, you've got to go smoke. I wonder if this is what the docky who would smoke. Yeah, smoking Camels more than any other cigarette. Yeah.
Sorry, the crazy thing is you can't really read the fine print, but doctors recommend them because apparently they fortify your throat. So if you smoke, you don't get as much sore throats or throat irritation.
Yes, and if you want to just remember the old Yul Brynner comment, stop, don't smoke.
Now, there's a couple of interesting people advertising cigarettes here. The first one is a particularly interesting catchphrase, blow her Hey.
No. Start
Oh,
again.
sorry. Blow in her face and she'll follow you anywhere.
If only it was that easy. I would have
Yeah,
taken up smoking back when I was like a child.
I always thought blowing smoke in someone's face was like kind of an insult. I never knew it was like a way to pick up girls. And
Oh,
then
God.
I must have been a bad boy every year. I at Christmas because Santa never gave me a box of Camel cigarettes. That's for sure.
Isn't that absolutely unbelievable? Blow in. If you didn't see the picture, blow in her face and she'll follow you anywhere. Oh, my God. That is so bad. That is so wrong.
Now these are absolutely genuine cigarette ads that they used in advertising campaigns and probably paid thousands and thousands of dollars to run in magazines.
Unbelievable. And of course, if that doesn't work for you, good old Father Christmas, what does he have a puff on at the end of the year?
It's Camels as well. Like I was saying, I must have been a bad boy because I never got Camels, I never got Winnie Blues, I never got a box of anything like that for Christmas.
Winnie Blues. How Australian is that? You got the Winnie Blues, you tuck them up under the t-shirt thing. Absolutely fantastic. So, oh goodness gracious. Yes, Santa was a craven ape. Who would have thought that Santa was going to have a puff? What's the deal with that?
I don't know. Like, obviously, Santa has changed his stance on giving cigarettes to the kids.
Yeah, I love it. It says a Merry Christmas for every smoker. So if you're a non-smoker, then clearly you're just going to be missing out.
Yeah,
God, look at this.
Nico time cigarettes, the smooth taste expectant mothers crave. Yeah.
Just stick the cigarette in the belly button. That's what it's there for, isn't it?
Well, one in the middle is great where they've actually got the baby. They're not suggesting that babies should actually smoke, but the babies have messages for their dads. And there was a whole series of these from Marlborough where you had babies talking to their mums and dads saying how smooth the cigarettes smelt and, you know, how mum should have a cigarette break and things like that. There was not just this ad, there was a whole heap of them. So, yeah, everyone in the whole family was targeted.
It's a bit hard to read down here, but using the magnifying glass of truth, it actually says, "Yes, you never need feel over smoke. That's the miracle of Marlborough."
What is over smoked?
Oh, I've got no idea, dude. But I mean, get back to the first one. So they're actually, because back then nobody knew. So let's just deal with that. Okay. Expectant mothers. Yes. You go to Nico. So if you're a woman and you sort of get yourself pregnant, you go off your Camels and you get straight onto Nico time because clearly that is the choice of cigarette for expectant mothers. So
yeah,
how about that?
Now the last one there is the oldest one from the Vials files. It's a French cigarette ad. You smoke cigarettes in cases of asthma, cough, bronchitis, hay fever, influenza, and shortness of breath. Not to get it, to cure it, you smoke.
Yep, it gives immediate relief. So how gross is that? I absolutely love that.
Now, they didn't just target kids with cigarettes from a young age. Can you believe this? Not just Coke, I guess all the cola manufacturers or soda manufacturers got together and decided it was better to start a better start for life. Start cola earlier. How soon is too soon? As young as you can get it into them. And again, I'm paraphrasing, but if you if you drink soda, you'll have a better social life, easier at school. Better to get along with, all these amazing things. I drank a lot of soda growing up and none of that happened to me, that's for sure. But the great one on the right there with 7-Up, do you know what you do if your baby is not drinking milk? You give them a 50-50 mix of milk and 7-Up and that'll get them to drink it straight away.
Well, it used to be the old gag. If you want your baby to fall asleep, you put alcohol like brandy on the dummy, and that'll knock them out big time. So, yeah, I love that. I reckon they've just removed the picture of the baby bottle, and they just said, "Oh, okay, we'll just put the glass in there of the 7-Up." But how about that? For a better start in life, start cola earlier. Oh, how young can you go? Newborn comes out, the kids, meh, meh, meh. They whack it on the ass like they do with the doctors of the centre. Right, here we go. Get the bottle of Coke, pop the top, and just shove it in, and off we go.
Well, you just imagine that baby. They pull the bottle out, and then there's just one huge loud Barney burp from The Simpsons.
Yeah. So Gavin's asked, how do these ads get passed by the AMA? But nobody knew back then. You see, you got to remember, this is decades ago. So the world was a completely different planet. And
Yeah.
these days you could never do it. But back then, there's a lot of stuff you could get away with. And then sometimes we forget just how advertising worked. And it's a real shock to the system. But back then it was considered okay. So love it. Absolutely fantastic. But how soon is too soon? I absolutely. And the first line you can't read because it's really, really small. It says not soon enough. So they're talking about it. Straight into son. No mucking around. So absolutely love it.
Now we're moving out. This is a bit controversial. We just like to say we do not agree with any of this. There was a lot of sexist ads that you just wouldn't fly now. You've got that picture of the beetle there that's all bent out of shape. And with the bottom, it says, sooner or later, your wife will have to drive home.
Oh, it's down here.
Yeah. One of the best reasons for owning a Volkswagen.
Oh, there you go. So you get her a bug. Absolutely fantastic. And your chances are these probably would have sold as well. And yes, we are. Yeah, right. We're talking about a different era. So you're just going to have to deal with that. Yeah.
So here's one. I did not know this fact, but maybe it's true. So the harder the wife works, the cuter she looks.
Oh, geez, Louise, how good is that, eh? So
if you want to get on board with that and help her work, well, the third ad there, Christmas Christmas wrapping. She'll be hoping,
Christmas morning.
Oh, Christmas morning. She'll be. Is it?
Yeah, I'll say it for you. Christmas morning, she'll be happier with a Hoover. So in other words, give your wife a vacuum cleaner for Christmas, and she'll love you for.
Well, Hoover were the market leaders for so long that people called all brands of vacuum cleaners Hoovers, didn't they?
Well, it was like when Whirlpool had guess whose mother's got a Whirlpool. It's like, oh, okay. What about guess whose father's got a Whirlpool? But that certainly didn't sell. So, for the dozen going somewhere it doesn't expect. Oh, goodness gracious. Did you know there was a women's lib cigarette? Oh, it wouldn't surprise me. So anything to market to an eager audience was never going to get knocked back.
Yeah, so here's some more sexist advertising. The beer ad there on the left, suddenly she never looked prettier.
Yeah. Oh, God, that's just so wrong, isn't it? Oh, jeepers creepers.
And then there's the one in the middle.
Oh, that's wrong, dude.
It's about tight jars and lids that can't be opened. You mean a woman can open it?
Jeepers. Oh, dear.
Yeah, then you've got the Kenworth mixer, the chef. The chef does everything but cook. That's what wives are for.
Oh, God, so wrong. So bad. And you're right, Thomas. It's just so wrong. So, that's just
I just like to point out to anyone who thinks we might be sexist, I am the one that does 100% of the cooking in my household. Dags knows that.
I like to point out to all the people out there, I don't cook a single thing in my household.
So we're a fully rounded program here.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, the question is, does Aaron cook for me? No, he doesn't. But there you go.
Well, we've got a more modern one here. It's pretty much on the edge, but this is a real ad. The more you play with it, the harder it gets. Sega Mega Drive.
Oh, is that what it is? I didn't even notice the Sega thing. I was thinking, what the hell would that be? Oh, God.
So I think it's meant to be, as you advance through levels, it gets harder and harder. It is one of those things where you look at it and you don't really see what it is meant to be. That is obviously one where the advertisers are trying to be quite provocative, aren't they?
Yeah. Christy's asked, who does the dishes in your house?
The washing machine, the dishwasher.
Very good. Good answer.
Right. And the Jade East one is a bit hard to read there, but the comment down the bottom is, if she doesn't get it out yourself.
Hang on. If she doesn't give it to you, get it yourself.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah, it's very, very small for me to read. So
I mean, it's almost like, did they even bother giving this woman pants? I mean, it's like, couldn't they give her something a little bit more discreet and a bit longer? It's like far out. It's like, bloody hell. So,
We-
but I
you-
mean,
you-
we've always
you-
noticed with a lot of advertising, there's a huge, even today, well, a lot of sexism goes on with a lot of commercials, and I guess it's sort of just carried over from this era. But
yeah, it is.
unbelievable. Gavin said that he is the dishwasher, and guess what, Gavin? I am too. So there you go. Very, very good.
I am the law.
I am
Yeah,
and you're supposed to say, I am the law. Yeah, exactly right. So, yes. And the vial, I said, does it have a dual shock? Oh, I tell you what. There you go. Check that out when you have a chance. So, there you go.
yeah.
There you go. And Thomas, being a single dude, does everything. So, yes, good on you, Thomas. Well done to you, sir.
And this last one is it could have almost gone into the other vile file we did about old fashions, but this one is a great advertising campaign, and it's vile because they were advertising violence. They were advertising the genes in that you don't want restrictive genes, because if you get into a fight, you won't be able to punch on as hard as you could if you're wearing these kicking jeans. And kicking jeans went on for a couple of years, and they've got extra room around the crotch and legs so you can high kick and do all these karate moves. And then Bruce Lee got involved, and Bruce Lee started advertising the action jeans as well. Basically, the jeans you want when you want to kick the shit out of someone. But he was so into it and it did so well, they've got action pants. Now, these are actual real items you could buy.
So, what did you say Bruce Lee for? It's Chuck Norris, dude.
I'm off tonight, aren't I? It is Chuck Norris. I'm sorry about that. So, yes, Chuck Norris, of course, wearing the action jeans and the action pants there. I do like how he's got the action pants, but he's got gumboots on or something.
Yeah, it is a known fact that the Bermuda Triangle used to be the Bermuda Square until Chuck Norris Roundhouse kicked one of the corners off. There is no evolution, only those animals Chuck Norris allows to live.
Yeah.
But you are right. And of course, this probably comes with the idea of like stretch denim, because stretch jeans are actually fantastic. But yes, you are right. If you're going to advertise something, yes, it's allows you to go and action gumboot.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So there are many more adverts in the Viles vault of advertising, but we'd like to thank everyone who participated today, and there are a lot of our regulars that give me stuff for the Vile file as well. So what I'd just like to say is there's a few extra ads there that we didn't get in. You can see there's a couple of the baby ones for Marlborough as well, but the Vile has basically gone through all eras of advertising. There's good and bad in both, but the ones he's picked out and shared with us tonight have been well and truly violated.
Absolutely fantastic. And yes, it's an absolute shock to the system, isn't it, really, when you sort of see what's going on. But that's how the world was. And of course, you do wonder if in decades to come, people look at the commercials of today and go, oh my goodness, that's just like completely inappropriate. Who knows? Weird things can happen. But very good. Yeah, send Chuck to Ronnie's place. Yeah, I like the sound of that. So, yes, awesome. Good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed that. But yes, a different era, different time, and it is the way it goes. And if you can't watch a 1950s or 60s movie without someone smoking in them, it was just the norm. And it's amazing how things changed over the decades. But anyway, it is what it is. Yes, very, very cool, which is why I think it was surprising in Star Trek Picard, the dude was smoking a cigar. And I go, who would be smoking a cigar in the 24th century? I mean, yes, they clearly didn't pick up on the smoking is bad for you rules. So there you go. All right. Anyway, time for us to move on. We've actually got a really good one tonight.
Ooh, baby, do you know that's right?
All righty. So we're yapping on a bit about the old eBay. What have we got tonight there, Mr. Aaron?
Well, I thought tonight would be Christy's time to shine, because what I've chose is I guess everybody could collect them, but these would be classed as girls' toys.
Oh, good on you. So, yes, it's not just aimed at Christy, it's aimed at everybody. But, yes, using traditional terms and just keeping it all very PC, these used to be classed as girls' toys, but they don't necessarily have to be. But they are still collectible no matter how you like it. Angie's already gone for $2. Let's have a look and see what's coming up. Oh, check it out.
Barbie dolls. It's the classic Barbie. You've got blonde Barbies there and brunette Barbies. I don't know if they've got their original clothes or they've been mixed and matched. We've got 5 of them in the one auction. There's been quite a bit of bidding on that, hasn't there, Dags? So it could be quite a high price, or every bid could be 50 cents.
Yeah, 42 bids. So it's the answer to the ultimate question. And of course, when you see Barbie dolls and you just say used, you can interpret that in many different ways. But yes, so they're obviously out of their packets and who knows what condition they were in. But 42 bids. There was a bit of interest in this. So let's see how we go. All right, Ange said
Just
$2.
before
I
you
don't know
go
if you want to
through,
stick with
Dag,
Huh?
just before you go through, I would like to point out Barbie never used the advertising term blow in her face and she'll follow you anywhere.
You do wonder how many people actually bought cigarettes thinking that's the way to go. That's how I pick up chicks at the local nightclub. So there you go. Guaranteed 100% failure rate. Okay, Anne said $2. I love that one. Thomas has added a few extra numbers on top of that. 2,700. Colin is at $5,000. Holy guacamole. Natasha and the little dude. $25 for the Barbie dolls. Gavin has said 10,000. What are these guys smoking? Freaking huge numbers here. William's at 125. Christy has said $42 and she hates Barbie. Fair enough. I used to like it when you used to go to Toys R Us and they have one aisle just all pink because they registered the actual color. Violating Barbie, as one should often do, is the violet 250. And Mark has said 500. Holy guacamole. Big numbers getting chucked around, except for Angie's cheap ass $2 and Natasha and the little dude at 25. So there you go. Very, very cool. All right. So we've got some Barbie dolls. They are used. Make of that what you will. There were 42 bids. And look, the Greg King, each in the garage sale, the Barbie doll bin, very, very cool. We'll have to see how it all goes. So how much do you reckon they all went for? All these Barbie dolls, they're all being used and abused. And they went for a whopping 42 bids into it. $781. Holy guacamole.
That shocked me because they look like modern-ish Barbies. I don't know where the value is on that, but obviously there was a couple of people after them because there was 42 bids. So there you go. Don't throw out your Barbie dolls.
Mark's got it, but he's still got to cough up an extra $280. That's a lot of money, though, isn't it? For used ones, no less. So, and you're right. Used for what? Who knows? Angie, missed it by that much, by $779. So there you go. And Christy's wanted to see these burn. Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah, amazing. So just loose ones. So maybe that'll set the trend for the rest of the evening. We'll have to see how it goes because coming up is this. Oh, check it out.
Vintage Mattel Barbie bus. Now, I remember when I was growing up in the 80s when my friends were getting He-Man castles for Christmas and Snake Mountain and Voltron, their sisters all wanted to get this Barbie bus. And it was a very expensive item and no one could get it. I remember a lot of my friends' sisters wanting it and no one ended up with this thing. That is absolutely huge. It's in scale for the Barbie doll line. So all of the Barbies in the last auction could have had a party in the back of this bus at the same time. But how much would you get a second-hand one for?
Yeah, it looks like it's gone off the cliff a couple of times. Yeah. So Angel says 72. Christy has gone, there we go, 1 cent. Oh my goodness gracious me. What's the deal with that? Gavin has said 1,200. Thomas is at 875. William is at 800. Natasha and the little dude is 465. Colin's at 50. Violating Barbie's bus is the violet $70. Unbelievable. But yeah, brand new. These were the kind of things a lot of people said, I'd love to have one of those. It's like the AT-AT Walker for Star Wars fans or for Barbie fans. And it's just like, mate, we're going to get my hands on one of those. But there you go. It's been used. One person put in a bid. And there you go. Absolutely love it. The vintage Mattel Barbie bus. What does everybody else think? Greg King, he's stuck in $2 plus 5 free Barbies. They are chucking them away. So there you go. All good fun. All right, so what do we reckon it went for? Vintage Mattel Barbie bus. One bid, big ass toy. Looks absolutely fantastic. Marcus chucked in $1,000, $10. We always know why Ken was a virgin. Let's move on from that, shall we? And it went for a whopping 1 cent. And I'll give you one guess who gets it. Yeah.
Christy didn't want it, hates it, and she got it. She nailed it.
How can something sell for a cent? You're just giving it to her for free. What's the deal?
I really don't know. It's one of the mysteries of eBay, but there you go. The postage would have been more than the actual item. As the vial said, there ain't no party like an F-bus party.
That's ridiculous. I mean, that's a point. You would just throw it out. I mean, 1 cent. That's not even demolishing time. Yeah, it looks like it's already been demolished. I mean, you can't transact that. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But yeah,
Someone got a bargain because that's worth more than 1 cent, I can tell you.
Yeah, well, even if it's sold for actually, in your case, if you sold it for $1, you still got 99-cent profit. So that's not too bad at all. That's like that's a 99% profit, if I'm not mistaken. So unbelievable. So there you go. How good is that? So the person who wanted it the least is the one who ended up winning it for 1 cent. Oh my goodness gracious me. What is the deal? All right.
Okay, so this is the vintage Shearer Princess of Power. This is the castle. Like for every Snake Mountain and for every Castle Grayskull, a little girl wanted this castle for her Shearer dolls or action figures. And this one's pretty good because it's got a lot of the accessories that are always missing. And you've got to remember with toys like this, it's often the accessories are worth more than the actual toy. So to get this one so complete is quite a rare find.
Rusky Babe said the previous one, write a check for 1 cent. The paper you're writing on would be worth more than 1 cent. So, excuse me. So, yeah, not good. Anyway, so we've moved off from Barbie. So, Christy will be happy. We're going to She-Ra, which is obviously from the Master Universe line, which is particularly groovy. Andrew said 57. So, it says vintage, and you got the castle and all the rest of it. Gavin has said 5. Thomas has gone 14.50, so he's a happy camper looking at that. The most useless princess at 5 cents. Oh, Christy, you're a hard taskmaster. What can I say, eh? Unbelievable. Natasha and the little dude, she actually has it and stuck in England. There you go. So that doesn't give us a bid, Natasha and the little dude. You're going to have to cough up some dollars, buy another one, as it were, if you get this. $100 for Colin. In fact, Natasha, if it turns out that this sells for a lot of money, you're going to be sitting there crying your eyes out. Thinking, oh, my God, it's stuck in England. Sell it and pay for an airline flight. Violating She-Ra as the vial is $35, which is groovy. William has said 500. Natasha and the little dude is at $6.98, which is particularly groovy. What do you reckon? Vintage She-Ra, Princess of Power, the most useless princess. I can think of a few princesses who are a bit useless, more useless than that, but there you go. All right, so there. You think they remolded He-Man's fortress in pink plastic? Well, probably not far from it. So there you go. All right, so how much do you reckon it went for, kids? It is used. Vintage She-Ra, Princess of Power. It went for a whopping $260. What do you reckon of that, Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, so I think that was a good price for all the accessories. If I had it and I was only get $260, I'd be tempted in selling all the accessories separately for like $99 each and getting a whole lot more. But there you go. I'm a capitalist dog. If I had that in the shop in that condition, I'd probably want about $400 or $500 for it.
Yeah, no one's even sort of close. I think Ange might be. It's between Ange and William. I can't do the maths. So someone's way over, someone's way under. Hang on. Sorry, Ange, forget that. Colin is closest. Sorry, Colin's closest. You've got to cough up an extra $160, Mr. Colin. But you're good to go. So there you go. How about that? Very, very good. Sorry, dude. Did you say anything else you wanted to say?
Colin's got a pink castle. He can beam his Mego Star Trek figures down and they can explore its crystalline structure.
Very, very good. And with that nerdy comment, we're going to move on to this. Oh, check it out, kids.
Oh, this is another great one for girls growing up. It was, everyone remembers the strawberry shortcake figures and dolls because they actually smelt like different things. He-Man had Stinkor and Mossman, but strawberry shortcake, every single one of them tasted like something you wanted to pop in your mouth. This one is Peach Blush, Berrykin, new in box. So if you open that box, you'd get the whiff of the 80s coming out into your face.
I'm waiting for Christy to say it's the most useless strawberry shortcake she's ever seen. All right. And with the previous item, yes, I agree with you, Gavin. You can pick it up on the Barbie bus. Very good. Okay, Andrew said 15. Gavin is at 5.74. Greg King is sticking with the $2. Absolutely. 1985, and it's only worth $2 in that entire time. Thomas has said 4.50. Colin has said 75. Christy smells like death, 15 cents. Oh, Christy, mate, you are just hard work. Williams at 2.50. So, yes, what do you reckon, kids? Vintage 1985 strawberry shortcake, and it is used. Make of that what you will. Violating the vintage 1985 strawberry shortcake is the vial at 15. And Natasha and the little dude has said $10. How good is this? Peach Blush. Yay, team. Get yourself out there. Very good stuff. All right, so what do you reckon it went for? 1985. That's like nearly 40 years ago now. Only got a couple of years left to go. Did it go for a lot, or was it as cheap as chips? It went for a whopping $1,250. What's the deal with that, Mr. Aaron?
They're very rare to get. Girls' toys are generally harder to get than boys' toys because boys did collect as well. Girls generally opened and like to take the clothes off and change the clothes and do the hair and do the makeup and all those kind of things. So it's a lot harder to get girls' toys from this period.
Very good. And as we said, Gavin got it, but he's almost like $1,000 short. So there you go. But how about that? That's insane, isn't it? $1,250. Holy guacamole! So, and I agree with you, Greg. Used. Yeah, you do wonder what that. How do you interpret that, Gavin? You don't want it. Well, it's too bad, son. You've already put a bid in, and you're $1,000 short or whatever, but you got it. So, yes. And Christy said yes. The so-called girls' toys, too pink and cutesy. Yeah, I used to find it interesting that in the toy shop you'd have the distinct girls section and the distinct boys section. And the girls section had the dolls, and the boys section had all the guns and the cars and whatever. And I always used to wonder, it's like, what if you wanted to go to the other section? What happened then? So,
well,
anyway, who knows?
I'll tell you what would happen. I'll tell you what would happen. My parents would sometimes make us go into the girls section to buy presents for our female relatives, and me and my brother would literally die, as in we would drop dead and die and shrivel up if you walked into the girls section.
Yeah. It's sort of, I don't know if they still do it in toy shops today, but yeah, you do wonder. Anyway, go for it.
Okay, this is everybody's favourite ponies and My Little Ponies. This is Rainbow Dash My Little Pony plus accessories. So again, it's used and open, but it's got all the accessories, so it's probably worth something, isn't it?
38 bids. So clearly someone wanted their pony, a bit of a big deal. So maybe the pony itself wasn't worth much, but all the bits that was. So where it came from. Now look at this. Andrew's decided to crank it all up, add all these extra, maybe his keyboard stuck or something. $15,000 friggin' dollars, mate. It's only a pony with bits of plastic next to it. What's the deal with that? Yes, here's one for the bronies. Yes, I like the sound of that. Very, very cool. So Rusky Babe said Barbie Lane, and then Christy said cluster bombs. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely fantastic. Okay. Gavin has said 642. Thomas is at 750. Colin is at 1675. You can buy a real pony for the price of this. That's absolutely unbelievable. Rainbow Dash, My Little Pony plus accessories. What does everybody else think? This is our last item for the night. Put your bids in, kids. Yes. Wow, so William has said $1,200 for what it is. It's just bits of plastic. Oh my God, you could probably 3D print these things for less. So the Violet said $450 to kick it. Oh, that's not very, very friendly. So there you go. All right, so we're gonna have to move on. Waiting for people. Huh?
Natasha hasn't bid because she's got it back in England.
Yes, exactly right. And Christy said 38 cents. Oh, Christy, you're a hard taskmaster tonight. Maybe you're right. Somebody said we need to bring in machine guns or something, and that'll get you bidding a bit more higher. All right, so what do you reckon it went for? The Rainbow Dash. Marcus said $100 to dispose of it. Oh, geez, you're a bit osh. Rainbow Dash, My Little Pony plus accessories. How much do you reckon it went for? 38 bids. So it certainly won't go for 1 cent, that's for sure. So it's used, but it's got all the pieces. How much do you reckon it went for? It went for a whopping $20,000 effing dollars. What's the deal with that?
Well, My Little Ponies have a bit of a following, as someone brought up bronies and things like that, and they have a big following. And some of the people put insane bids on stuff and have very deep pockets. Now, Dags, you can vouch for this. I sent you 2 ponies tonight to choose from, and both of them went for up around that price. It's crazy.
That's mind-boggling. I mean, can you just imagine showing somebody this is $20,000? You can buy a car for that. It's like, what is the deal? So that's complete insanity. So I don't get it, mate. That's So, I agree with you, Colin. I'm shaking. I think we all are just shaking our head too. That's just there's something wrong with that. So, and there was 38 bids. So clearly there was a bit of competition. Someone said, "Oh, I need that little plastic bit right there," and I'm prepared to pay through the nose to get it. So. Absolutely, and I agree with you. It's just insane. I mean, there's no other way. It is actually literally madness. So yes, and Andrew was already aware that it was worth a fair bit of money. But that's it. You can buy the Barbie bus for 1 cent, which is a large item, and you got the pony with accessories at $20,000. Man, freaking hell!
Imagine if you were a pony fan, and there are the chances you walked into a garage sale or an op shop and you found that at a couple of bucks, you would just lose it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly right. You'd be sitting there, I can't get my money out quick enough. So there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it for tonight. But before everybody nicks off or goes and gets themselves a cup of coffee or whatever, we've actually got a bit of a commercial time. We've got 2 things to advertise, and Aaron doesn't even know what the second thing is. I haven't even told him. Nobody knows about it just yet. But the first one is the most important one because next Monday, believe it or not, Obi-Wan Kenobi is launching in a couple of days' time. And, of course, we will be doing our scene-by-scene reviews of the old Kenobi series and chapter 1 and 2, which I don't think have names yet, kicking off on Monday at 8 p.m. So you've got to make sure you tune in to see what we think of the show, giving it the Dags and Aaron a once-over. What do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron? Are you all excited and pumped for a bit of Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I have to say this is the one thing I've been looking forward to more than anything this year. So you could be experiencing a lot of fan glaze on Wednesday night.
Yeah, exactly right. And I did find it interesting, this poster, they've already put the image of Darth Vader in there. And I thought, there's a spoiler alert. So a spoiler alert before the show's even come out. So if you're not doing anything Monday night, I urge you to check in. There'll be other reviews on the internet, but you want to see the best, you've got to come to us, right? Now, very, very good. It's only 9:30. Are we finishing? No, we're kicking on. No, we've still got our main segment to kick off next. But the next thing I've got to mention, believe it or not, cop this, Sci-Fi Zone itself has moved into the the social media sphere. So we signed up for Instagram and Twitter. Got no idea how they work, no idea what they do. But for those who are into the social media stuffs, feel free to come and join us and follow and whatever it is you're supposed to do, retweet and re-Insta. I don't freaking even know what these things even do. But we come under the name of Sci-Fi Zone, you can see there with the underscores. And yes, and we will be posting replays of these episodes on both of those, formats. And if you want to retweet and refollow and re-Insta or whatever it is, feel free to do so. So, yes, what do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron? Is that the smartest or the dumbest thing that this that we could have done?
I'm just thinking if we're both on Twitter, does that make us a couple of twits?
Oh, I tell you what, I looked at it and I thought, mate, what the freaking hell? It really is my Yoda quote. It's like, I'm wondering, why am I here? So, yes. So there you go. But we are on Instagram and on Twitter, and I guess time will tell as to how well that turns out. But I thought it was worth a shot.
How many followers do we have, Dags? How many followers do we have?
Donuts, mate. Absolute goose eggs. So there you go. So you too, whoever's out there, can be the first person to sign up and be a follower of our show. And, of course, we may use it to promote other things along the way. I don't know. I haven't thought about it yet. But anyway, so you look it up, Sci-Fi Zone, and, yes, Tweedledee. And I think it's supposed to be Twitter Dumb and Twitter D. Okay, I'm not sure what he's...
Well, I tell you what, you can tell if anything interesting and informative is tweeted, you can tell our account's been hacked.
Yeah, well, actually, when it gets hacked, that's probably where the really interesting stuff will come from. So... very good stuff. Anyway, so yes, put the word out and tell everybody about it, which is particularly groovy. All right, so good stuff. Yes. All right, guess what, kids? It's our time for our feature presentation. And what are we discussing tonight, Mr. Aaron? We're going away from our sci-fi roots. And where are we going?
Well, I haven't put the letter up, but it was another piece of correspondence. Someone really enjoyed our model car episodes, and they particularly liked the James Bond cars we looked at, and they remembered we started doing James Bond posters and books, and we never kind of came back to it. So I thought, okay, we haven't done this for a while. We're going to have a look at the James Bond movies from the 70s this time. Last time we did the 60s and the Sean Connery run. We're looking at Roger Moore in the 70s this time around, and we might go a little bit into the 80s if time allows it.
Yeah, exactly right. So, yeah, when we did the 60s, it was like a few months ago, actually. So, yeah, it's been a while for sure.
Yeah, so we saw in the last time we looked at these that James Bond was phenomenally successful, and Sean Connery had been turned from basically a no one into a global star overnight, and he had done a whole lot of James Bond movies, and he had decided it was enough for him, and they'd got George Lazenby to do one, and even though he was well received, it hadn't gone down as well as the producers had hoped, and they'd got Sean Connery back for one last bite of the cherry, and after that they weren't sure what they were going to do, and they might have got an American James Bond. They were looking at maybe Burt Reynolds, but they decided James Bond was British, and they went with Roger Moore.
Yeah, I guess it was a bit of a shock to the system for a lot of people who were so used to Sean Connery, and I was one of them. And I mean, Roger Moore did have a bit of background with The Saint and all the rest of it. It was definitely a bit of a contrast, and you had to readjust your thinking and your style. But by the same token, the films modernised themselves in the 70s as well. So I
Yeah.
guess you sort of was a bit of each way bet on whether it was going to work or not. And as it turned out, it worked. And it was very, very successful. So
Well,
yeah,
Roger
good
Moore,
stuff.
Roger Moore was lucky in that the producers gave him enough leeway to put his own mark on the character, and where Sean Connery had been more of a tough guy, Roger Moore was more of a gentleman.
The funny thing is, I found that Roger Moore tend to play a lot of the same characters in a lot of shows. So in The Saint and The Persuaders, I think it was, he seemed to be like the same dude the whole way through. You see, he just looked the same, he sounded the same. So it was almost like he just by default just slipped right into the whole James Bond persona. So yeah,
Also, whenever you see a non-James Bond movie with Roger Moore during the 70s, it just seems to be him playing James Bond in a different movie with maybe a beard or something else. I think there's one, is it Black Sea or Red Sea Gold? And you're just like, that's James Bond, and he's playing James Bond. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but he
I
was
always love the fact that he released his book, My Word Is My Bond. I always thought that was a really, really good title. But yeah, good old Roger Moore was the go.
yeah. So you can see there's a few pictures of his roles before James Bond, and a very young baby-faced James Bond. Well, Roger Moore down in the bottom right there. His first movie was Live and Let Die. And Live and Let Die was originally written, probably not knowing that he was going to star in it. And you can see where he was first filming in Harlem in the newspaper cutting down the bottom there. And I find that really interesting because the kids would have all been sort of in Harlem at that time, going and seeing the filming, but they wouldn't have known who Roger Moore was. I would be pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, very, very groovy. So yeah, he became the new dude.
So Roger Moore had a higher profile than Sean Connery. Now it's interesting. One of the reasons Sean Connery said he left the role was because he was getting too old to be James Bond. Do you know Roger Moore is actually older than Sean Connery. So he took over being older than Sean Connery and then went on to play the role for another 12 or 13 years.
Okay, no, I didn't know that actually. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So there's shots there from the opening of Live and Let Die. And of course, when anything like this happens and there's a massive change, producers were worried if it would be popular, if the audience would accept the new actor. Live and Let Die wasn't a huge blockbuster at the time in compared to some of the old movies, but it did well enough that they were happy with how things went. I think they kind of made a bit of a mistake doing Live and Let Die as the first movie, because James Bond, you go to sort of jet-setting locations and have exotic girls, and I do think going to America and setting half of it in Harlem didn't give it sort of that a mystique that going to, all these far-flung places might have been. And even when they went to some of the Jamaica and places like that, it didn't sort of look as flashy as some of the older movies. So they were trying for that grittier look for this. And I think after that, then it really took off. But we're going to have a bit of a look at Live and Let Die.
Good stuff.
So Live and Let Die is actually one of my favourite James Bond movies. I saw this at the cinema last year when they were doing sort of a James Bond revival up into the new movie. They were showing a different movie a week. Live and Let Die was one of the earlier Ian Fleming books. A lot of the story was changed for the movie, but that happens a lot in the movies. You can see there the original Live and Let Die with the bright pink cover and Live and Let Die. I have never seen. That's a very rare hardback to get. The pan paperbacks down the bottom are quite collectible, but they do turn up more. Live and Let Die was, of course, the one that had Jane Seymour in, who was also a British actor and actress and got on very well with Roger Moore. And it had a mainly black cast, which was unusual for movies at the time, but I think it worked really well for the movie. Some of it can seem a bit dated today and a bit, I guess, it wouldn't be a movie that they'd make the same way today, would it?
I like this. We love Rusky Babes as fun factoids, and sometimes he does play Mr. Moto, which is master of the obvious about the fact that all the Bond movies even have always made an absolute fortune. Yeah, I think. So there you go. But yes, I liked Live and Let Die. I thought it really worked for me, and like Jane Seymour obviously became a massive star after this. So
Yes.
I think when you introduce things like the whole the Caribbean thing and the voodoo thing and whatever else, it's actually like it's very exotic and it's something different and something you don't see every day. And for that reason, I think it worked really, really well.
Well, like I said, it's one of my favorite of the
Yeah.
Bond movies. Probably, I don't know if it. I love a lot of the Roger Moore stuff. This is a particularly good movie, though. I think one of the things about Roger Moore, the writing became a little bit more witty for his puns and stuff because he was an actor that probably could deliver comedy a little bit better than Sean Connery did. Sean Connery was a tougher, harder-edged Bond, where Roger Moore, the quips and the puns came across a lot better, and he was obviously a lot more used to doing them. Also, Roger Moore wanted to play it more as an English gentleman than sort of the thug, and he would actually argue that point on set.
You are. It was New Orleans. As soon as I said Caribbean, I thought that's not right. And then, yeah, thank you for correcting me on that one. So I haven't seen it for a long time, but yes, you are right. And I tend to agree with you. And I think for that reason, because you put the two of them side by side, and yeah, Rogers definitely had the more suave sort of look and style about him, rather as opposed to Connery, who didn't. So you can understand why they would put those gags in and line it up a little bit. And you know, it's like the quips that became ultimately famous when Schwarzenegger was doing them years later. But that probably started with Roger initially. So, yeah, totally agree.
So the print marketing for Live and Let Die was, I think, quite a really good and imaginative one. Part of the plot was the use of tarot cards, and they used that in the marketing of the movie, where you can see there's a deck of cards there. Interestingly enough, and I didn't really realize this until I saw it at the cinema, the tarot cards that Bond uses and the set that's in the deck that's in the movie are a specially commissioned 007 set. And in the movie, they actually have 007 on the back of the cards as part of the design of them. And it's actually in the movie, which kind of is a bit distracting once you notice it, because it kind of breaks that whole fourth wall kind of thing. The advertising campaign really stuck to what would worked before, where you basically have Bond with the gun is a strong image, and then a lot of pretty women around him with the different locations. Now, it's interesting, you've got, often with movies, they do this thing on posters where they maybe put too much in it that hypes it up, and when you see the movie, it isn't in it. But you see in this one, you've got a crocodile taking a snap at a speedboat and things like that. When you see this movie, there are crocodiles in it. They are a big plot point at one point, and a great set piece. And the speedboat scene, I would have to say there are not a lot of movies with speedboat chases in, and I don't think any have come close to being as good as this one.
Yeah, you could be right. So yeah, but you are right. So it's good to see like there's a whole lot of variety regarding the advertising for it, and this one is quite interesting, just a standard black and white picture, and yeah, it looks very very groovy.
It's interesting. These are some of the lobby cards and international advertising for the movie too. I think they went with a very colourful look for it. And you're right, the New Orleans locations. I did think it went from New Orleans to the island where Kananga was, which was in the Caribbean somewhere, because they went in with a hang gliders, didn't they, and landed in his poppy fields. So there was definitely some locales like that. You've got a lot of bright, colourful stuff that would grab the audience. I think James Bond at the time had changed before, so the audience probably weren't as worried about the main actor changing. For long-running franchises, I can't really remember many in the 60s and 70s that the actor changed like that and was still so popular. So James Bond really did break the mold when it came to movie series. If they had a failure with the main actor, I guess you could say George Lazenby was probably the least regarded of the Bonds at the time. But even that movie was a fantastic movie, so they could have moved on. But I think they hit it out of the park with Roger Moore.
It probably helps that you get the fact that one actor is not trying to emulate another and said, okay, well, I'm replacing this guy who's replacing this other guy. And I said, I'm going to try and be them, just like I look different, but I sound like them, I walk like them, I talk like them, instead of just saying, no, I'm just going to be my own persona and just start fresh. And of course, as the years roll on, you got to remember back then, I mean, there was no videotape, and there was like not a lot of stuff was being shown on TV. So once the movies had left the cinemas, that was it; they were gone effectively. So when a new movie came out, it's almost like people said, "Well, I can't remember what happened back in Doctor No. That was like freaking years ago. I've just lost track." So
Yeah.
it maybe refreshing things then was actually easier to sell to an audience. As opposed to today. So because once the movie was done, it could be years between films, and then suddenly Roger Moore's the new James Bond. They go, you know what? I've actually forgotten what Sean Connery was like. He was 2 Bonds ago, and
Yeah.
it all sort of moved on. So
It is interesting that they considered American Bond. I'd find that maybe harder to swallow if they had gone down that route.
Yeah, but you are right. They kept it British, which is the most important thing. Yeah.
Now, I guess this is probably equal first for me with my favorite movies. At one time, I thought this movie was stupid, but I absolutely love it now. The Man with the Golden Gun. I think a lot of things came together in this that really cemented the Roger Moore era. It was more tongue-in-cheek and a little bit camper. You had a great over-the-top villain, probably, again, a bit more over-the-top than the Sean Connery years. You had the beautiful girls, the beautiful locations, and you had, again, Christopher Lee, who is an absolutely amazing actor. You can see here you've got the first edition, The Man with the Golden Gun book at the top there, and that's the full dust jacket wraps around, so the title is across the whole book back and front. And then you've got the paperbacks down the bottom again, which are nice to find if you're a James Bond collector. I did like the imagery in this, where there was a bit psychedelic and a bit crazy. And when you look at other movies at the time that were coming out, like Enter the Dragon and maybe TV series like The Prisoner, it really does fit it into that sort of epoch of how cinema looked and how things were at the time. So I really love this era of James Bond. What did you think of The Man with the Golden Gun, Dags?
I can't remember it. I think I may have seen it once, and that was decades ago. It was very funny. I know he's an assassin. Scaramanga's an assassin. And I thought he's got a golden gun. I go, that's a really cockeyed way of killing somebody, and it's $1 million a shot or something. I just remember that from the song. So no, it just doesn't register, because I always get golden gun mixed up with Goldfinger. So the word gold, I'm just getting confused. But no, I'm afraid doesn't ring any bells.
So the locations for this were amazing. They were in Thailand for a lot of it, where, of course, they have renamed the place where they shot James Bond Island, and it's quite a tourist attraction. And I have actually been there myself, and it's a tiny little beach that's like a 2-hour boat trip out into the middle of nowhere, but everyone goes and gets their picture in front of that same rock that they used in the show as where the solar agitator was contained, kind of thing. This one, Dags, you love puns. This one probably has my favourite pun out of every single James Bond movie, where James Bond points the gun at a guy's crotch and says to him, "Speak now or forever hold your peace." Now, that is a good pun.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Is this so? This is the movie where they did the stunt with the car, the flipping through the air.
That's another thing that's absolutely amazing with this movie. Not special effects and not computer aided or anything like that. They actually worked it all out with maths and physics, and went and built a ramp and loaded the car up and weighted it, and they did the barrel roll in the car in one take.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I knew it occurred, but I didn't realize it was this movie. But good stuff. So I guess the classic thing with James Bond movies is always a villain, a new bad guy to play with, a new dude who makes an appearance. And even today, that still occurs even with a new movie. So there's always one more bad guy to take care of, whether he's a part of Spectre or not. So very groovy.
Yeah. So this also had Maud Adams. She's, I think, the only James Bond girl out of the classic Bond to appear in 2 different movies as 2 different Bond girls in different roles. And Britt Ekland was the other Bond girl in this. This is some of the paper advertising campaign for The Man with the Golden Gun. And again, I think it really captures that 60s essence. It's very colourful. It gives a lot of plot elements in the poster. Again, with you talking about the car, I did not realize until we did this episode that the car is doing the jump across the top of Bond's head, and I didn't realize that actually worked it into the poster, but there you go. So The Man with the Golden Gun was a very imaginative James Bond movie. Sean Connery was now confident in the role. The producers and the writers and the directors knew how they wanted to take the series, and it was obviously one of the strengths for that era.
The irony being, of course, so we'll look at this poster here. It says The Man with the Golden Gun, and you got James Bond here, and the gun that he's holding is not gold. So if you weren't paying attention, even though there's a gun down here, so if you weren't paying attention, you'd be going, but he's not carrying a golden gun, he's carrying a black gun. You could almost think that they're talking about, they've got their wires crossed, not realizing they're talking about somebody else with a gun that's gold. So what do you reckon?
Well, the interesting thing that people don't really talk about, Ian Fleming was a genius when he came to just coming up with the titles for his novels. When you think of the James Bond titles, The Man with the Golden Gun and Goldfinger and all of these other ones, they are book titles that grab you and go, I wonder what that's all about. So, if you can come up with a good title like that, you're on your way to a bestseller.
So you could almost argue when you're looking at these pictures, if you replaced James Bond here and you actually put Scaramanga in there with his golden weapon, his golden pistol, that might have been the go. So anyway, it doesn't really matter. Just
the one thing that really does surprise me about the ad campaign for The Man with the Golden Gun, where is Christopher Lee in it? He was a big star at the time. He'd been in a lot of movies. He was particularly big in England with the Hammer movies and being Dracula and things like that. So he obviously was someone they chose because they knew he would be a great bad guy. But he is not represented in any of the posters at all, apart from seeing his hand on the golden gun. Maybe that is to keep him as a bit of a surprise when he turns up, but he's in the very first scene, so it's not something they really need to hide.
Either that, or they've done it because they didn't want people to think, oh, hang on, Dracula's in this movie. So, yes, it just gets a bit,
Yes, it's very interesting. That did follow him his whole career. On the making of The Man with the Golden Gun, the cave that they filmed on in that island was full of bats, and all the cast joked about him. And then on the making of Attack of the Clones, George Lucas wheeled out a Yoda with the sharp teeth on, and so it was a running joke for his whole career. He probably got quite sick of it.
Yes, exactly right. He could say, oh, playing Dracula sucked. Anyway.
Now, this is the one time I've deviated and actually put some of the merchandise to do with The Man with the Golden Gun in the episode, because we were looking at the posters and the books, but this is too cool not to highlight. There have been many versions of the Golden Gun. I do think the toy pistol is interesting because, like you said, it's black. It's got a bit of gold, but it's black. But they have done actual replicas that fit together like in the movie. So anyone who hasn't seen the movie, he smuggles the gun around because it's actually a ballpoint pen, a cigarette case, and a couple of other things. And so he can disassemble it, put it in his pocket and walk through customs or whatever. And then when he's frisked, he can then put his gun together and use it. And as Dag said, it's $1 million a shot and it's a golden bullet. And that's all in the theme song.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. So William out-factoided Russell there.
Well, there you go. You learn something new every day. You just got to put the fun factoid part in the middle at the start. I reckon it looks really, really groovy, actually. And the fact, these days, of course, selling toy guns is just not considered the go. But, this one down here looks pretty groovy. I reckon that'd be worth a fair whack of dollars. What do you reckon, old son? I like the fact it says Lone Star. I just realised that from Spaceballs. So, yeah, maybe you can get a steakhouse with it.
With free peanuts. But but they have they are available in Australia. I've seen them. I think you'd probably take them apart and keep them not as a gun for most of the time, just in case, because of weapons laws here. But they're a very cool item, and they're very highly collectible, and a lot of people would like to get one in their collection.
Now, I do agree with you that as novels, the titles of the novels would have been really, really catching, right? Would have really grabbed you. And obviously, The Golden Gun is a really good one. And this one, I think, is actually particularly intriguing because you're thinking, okay, where are we going with this? And it's I reckon it would have grabbed a few readers at the time.
The Spy Who Loved Me is interesting because the only thing they were allowed to use from this novel was the title. Ian Fleming really hated the story, and the story wasn't about James Bond. It was about a woman, basically, who about a third of the way into the book, James Bond turns up in her life. It was probably unfilmable as a James Bond movie because it wasn't about James Bond and it wasn't about his missions. The only thing you hear about is he talks about some of his missions to the girl, and when you're reading the book, you go, gee, I'd rather be reading the book about the missions he's talking about than about this girl, because you're expecting a spy novel. So The Spy Who Loved Me was a totally original story that was made up for the movie, and the only thing that was taken from the book was the title, not even any of the characters. So this is where I guess the writers for the first time got to put their own stamp on James Bond, take all the elements they wanted and just go wild with it. And you can see they absolutely did, because this is the Bond that has the submarine car and the Atlantis base. And all these amazing locations. They obviously by this point knew that Roger Moore was a success, and they could basically send him all around to any location they wanted. They sent him to Egypt. They filmed at the pyramids. They used entire sound stages to make the submarine swallowing oil tanker. They introduced one of the most popular James Bond villain henchmen, which was Jaws. And they had the Russians and the English working together to try and foil the Stromberg's plan. So the other interesting thing here, there is a second book called The Spy Who Loved Me, and you can see it on the bottom there, and that's the book of the movie. So there are two books that exist with James Bond, The Spy Who Loved Me. There's the original by Ian Fleming, and there's the book there. Do you know which one's rarer?
I'm going to say the film version.
It is, because it was only available when the film came out, and it was never really reprinted. So those books are particularly hard to find.
Two things. What was the song? Is this one by Shania Easton, The Spy Who Loved Me? I can't remember.
I thought she did Nobody Does It Better for Octopussy.
No, that was Carly Simon who did that.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, so this one was Sheena Eastman then, yeah.
Cool. And you are right. So funny that happens where a book gets translated into a film, but the film is so different from the book, they've got to re-release the book, and they did that with Bram Stoker's Dracula. So if you look at Bram Stoker's Dracula, the original book written in the 30s or whatever, actually no, it was in the 1800s. Then you look at the movie, the Gary Coleman movie with, and then you said they had to re-release the book based on the film. So Bram Stoker's Dracula is not actually from Bram Stoker at all. So absolutely ridiculous.
Did you say Gary Oldman or Gary Coleman?
I thought you said Gary Oldman. No, Gary Oldman. No, not like Collier. What you talking about, Dracula? You freaking idiot. I know what I said. Gary Coleman, yeah, good on you. Anyway, so yes, it is kind of cockeyed when that happens. And yeah, you end up with two books with exactly the same title, but they're completely different stories. Go figure that one.
Well, that happens with a few of the James Bond movies now, because they deviated. Yeah. Now, this is some really interesting artwork here. This is the first one where there was very different concept art to the actual poster. And the concept art is interesting because it shows the villain has webbed hands, which obviously didn't make it into the final draft. So you've got that a Bond Buster, Bond Burner, and Bomb Blaster, which was the avenue they didn't go with. They changed it to the more traditional posters. And again, the posters for this movie are fantastic. They're colourful. They give away enough of the plot that you're intrigued, but they don't spoil anything. You've got the giant submarine bases. You've got, again, that kind of colourful 70s art. You've got Roger Moore looking fantastic with the Bond girl again. And this time she's a Russian spy that has it in for him, but they have to work together.
The good old Ruskies, eh? Even by today's standards, they're still considered the bad guys. So, yeah, it's particularly groovy.
Now, The Spy Who Loved Me is considered to have one of the best pre-title sequences for a James Bond movie. So for those who don't remember it, it's the one where James Bond is skiing and killing people and getting whacked and all of that. And then he skis off an impossibly large cliff where there is no way for him to escape because he's going to fall to his death. And then after what seems an eternity, a parachute opens and it's the Union Jack. And then the Union Jack spreads and it goes into the opening title sequence. Now, they apparently showed that at the premiere with Prince Charles. I don't know if he was married at the time, but he apparently stood up and clapped when the Union Jack opened and James Bond escaped. Interestingly enough, they did that stunt for real. They had to go and ski off a glacier to find a mountain that was flat enough that the skier could fly off, and then the parachute would open and they'd have enough time for him to land safely. So again, a fantastic behind the scenes sort of making of there.
You should have said this is a rip-it off the card fun factoid. You sort of missed that. So there you go. And,
I think they're copyrighted to Russell. Every time I say that, I've got to pay him 30 cents or something.
It's kind of funny. You got Jaws was his favorite Bond villain, but Jaws was actually out in this movie before Jaws the shark film, wasn't it? Is that the right, or was it the other way around? Which came first, the Jaws?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure the shark film would have been out by the time they released this. So I think they would have. Yes, definitely. Jaws was out by the time they released this movie.
Very good. All right. So, anything you want to mention this picture here before I move on?
And this is just some of the international posters. A lot of the time with the 70s Bond movies, they use a lot of the imagery from the English one, and there isn't too much changing it around. There's the lobby cards there, what are quite striking. And then you've got the French version, which is more of just the characters there.
So,
and of course, sorry.
Go.
And of course, I've highlighted everybody's favourite villain, Jaws, at the bottom there, strangling Bond.
So when Gavin said Jaws was his favourite Bond villain, what you need to do is just digitally remove Richard Keel and put the actual Bruce the Shark in.
And this is interesting. This is, as I was saying, they didn't do a lot of different art overseas, but the Germans went with a totally different print campaign. So you've got all these far out versions of the poster for the German print campaign. And this was the one James Bond out of the vintage ones. I found the Indian poster down in the middle there, which is of course straight out of the Vile file. It's an absolutely horrible poster, and I do not know what the jumping fish is all about in that either.
Because every James Bond movie needs a jumping fish. Oh, goodness gracious me. So there you go. Very good. Rusky Babes, you're screwing up your own factoids, mate. 77. Speaking there, very, very good. Okay, speaking of 77, so a lot of sci-fi shit starts coming out in the late 70s. And of course, it's starting to take off. It's a genre. Everybody's loving it. It's making shitloads of money for the studio. So someone said, James Bond, dude, you need to do a sci-fi movie. So what can you do? Okay, Q's guns and weapons and things aren't fancy enough. We're going to shoot you off into space. And for that reason, Moonraker came into play. That fact I do know.
Well, interestingly, Moonraker was not meant to be the movie they made. The movie they had announced on the end of The Spy Who Loved Me was For Your Eyes Only. But because of what you were saying, Star Wars coming out, science fiction being the huge thing in the cinemas, they said, well, we've got this movie called Moonraker that we can use. And they bumped this one forward. And they went all out. And this one they did advertise as where every other James Bond movie finishes, this one starts, because, you know, this is Bond in space. Moonraker is one of the hardest Ian Fleming books to get. It's one of his earlier ones. It's totally different from the Moonraker series. I remember reading it, but it was like 20, 30 years ago. And I think it was about someone putting a bomb on a spaceship and blowing up London with a nuclear bomb, which is nothing like the Moonraker we got on the actual big screen. The special effects with this were absolutely amazing. Apparently they went to ILM and ILM gave them a quote for it, and it was way over budget. So they said, no, thanks, we'll do it ourselves. And they did what a lot of effects companies did at the time. They set up all the effects and did it themselves, and it turned out fine and cost them a lot less.
Just winding the conversation right back, the Indian poster with the fish jumping out. I like it for Rusky Babes. Yeah, the jumping fish's jaws. They clearly got their characters kind of arse about on that one. I said, okay, we don't understand how the shark is running. Hang on, we don't understand how the shark's running around killing people, but you know what the hell? So there you go. Goodness. And I agree with you. I mean, once you start seeing the sequence where they have the big shootout in space, it's like, oh, that is particularly groovy. You know, even if it does look a tad dated by today's standards, or it was a bit wanky, it was very, very cool. And of course, James Bond movies were notorious for big ass fight scenes between the good guys and the bad guys, even though all these good guys just appear out of nowhere. And I've got to say, it was definitely the way to go. So can't argue with that.
Well, I have got to say, look, it maybe isn't the best James Bond movie because the plot is maybe a bit implausible, but it looks absolutely fantastic. The designer of the film apparently took his inspiration from Mondrian, the artist, and that's why the spaceship looks more like a cathedral with the screens looking like stained glass windows. And you cannot see the scale of this movie unless you've seen it at the cinema. I do find with James Bond, sometimes when you sit there and go, oh, this is a bit quaint or a bit dated, when you actually see them at the cinema and you realize how huge the sets are and what a big spectacle they are, sometimes it is a lot more impressive to see them that way. this is not a science fiction movie in the traditional science fiction sense. It's more of a spy movie set in space. But I tell you what, the sets and the space action doesn't let it down. You can't say it's the worst thing they've ever filmed in space. As a
Yeah,
sci-fi.
it's definitely clearly designed to watch in a cinema and go, mate, we are going. It's the bang for the buck. That's
Yeah.
what they're going for more than anything else. And hey, if it worked, good on them. So yes, very, very cool. Oh, there we go. Rusky Babes is fun factoiding against you. There we go. Not so much do it themselves. There we go. Derek Meddings did the Bond FX and Anderson Sci-Fi series, worked on Superman and Batman films. So there you go. Take that, he says.
Well, Derek Meddings was the one who did all the James Bond effects. He wasn't going to do the space ones, and he did do it himself in the end. So we're both right. We'll call that a draw.
Yeah, done.
But here's like the print campaign with this obviously was playing up the fact that they were in space. So a lot of the stuff looked very science fiction. It's interesting that in the actual movie he wears a canary yellow spacesuit, but none of that appears in the actual promotions for the film. It's all in a white spacesuit with the Union Jack on, and even the action figures based on the movie don't have the yellow suits that were used in the movie. They have this white one that was in the promotional material. Again, you can see down the bottom there, I've included the model that came out during the run of the film, and they used the original artwork on that too. And I actually think the artwork would have looked great with the Moonraker actually on it, because it doesn't really appear in the poster campaign.
Yeah, it was pretty clear he had to wear the yellow, so he stood out from all the other dudes later on in the big fight scene. And of course, the space shuttle was just a relatively new thing at the time too. So that was like anybody would say, "Oh, we're going to make a movie about that. This thing flies into space and can come back to Earth." And so that is just absolutely awesome. So it's a no-brainer to say you can make a film based around that. And just quickly, Christy said Mythbusters debunked many of the things in this movie. That would be pretty damn difficult, in my opinion. Most of it's all just completely like having a guy with all these choppers and he can just bite through metal cables. Yeah, I reckon debunking that would be pretty straightforward.
I'll tell you what, I was watching it, and Jaws murders people by basically biting their throats. I don't know how he gets away with no blood all over him, because that's a messy way to kill someone.
Yeah, so I can't imagine the Mythbusters guys going, "Yeah, that one has not been busted." So there you go.
The other thing,
very, very cool.
You were saying about the space shuttle, it was new technology because they hadn't even launched a shuttle mission at this time, and they actually have an explanation in it where they're like, "This is a spaceship that can take off like a normal spaceship but land like an airplane," and everyone's like, "Oh wow, that's amazing." Whereas we've been used to shuttle missions for so long.
I think it was the first time you saw the shuttle on the back of the 747 as well, because even though that was done in real life, a lot of people hadn't seen that before. So the fact they got one planted on top and then they fly off with it, it's like, far out. Oh, is that a special effect? It's like, no, they actually do that for real. They actually fly them around on the back of a plane. It's like, bloody hell.
Yeah.
So yes, very, very cool.
And here's the international campaign. Moonraker was the biggest success of the Roger Moore Bond movies. This one really did shoot through the stratosphere and was the first James Bond movie to beat Thunderball at the box office, which was the biggest one up into that point.
Got a question for you. Do you think it's lucky that Fleming just happened to have a book called Moonraker? So even though they didn't use the story, they could use the title? Because if he didn't have one with the word moon in it, do you reckon they would have been a tad like scratching their heads as to what to do?
I think you're probably right there. I think it goes back to what I was saying about Fleming was really lucky in the names that he called his books. Moonraker, it's actually a real thing. Moonraker are pirate sails. Pirates of the Caribbean used to have an extra set of sails that were at the very top of the mast that would give them an edge, and they could catch the breeze and be apparently faster. And that's what Moonrakers are. So Ian Fleming got the name from that, used it as the name of his spaceship, and it is a fantastic name, really, a Moonraker. He didn't come up with that as a new word. That was a word that existed.
Yeah, just because of the fact you had the word moon just implies space and celestial bodies and all the rest of it. So it's almost like had that title never existed, the guys have been looking thinking, well, you can't have the man with a golden gun flying into space. That kind of doesn't work. So yeah, it was a bit of a no-brainer in the end.
It is interesting. I digress, but Blade Runner, of course, isn't the movie based on the book Blade Runner. It's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And they got a writer to come in and get a better name for it. And Blade Runner is a Burroughs, a William Burroughs book title, and they had to pay $1 million to him to get the rights to use the title on Blade Runner, even though there was nothing of his story in it, just because they liked the name of the title.
That is a nice digression. Let's get back onto it. There was a 1950s British film, Moonraker. So there you go. But anyway, it was just lucky that Fleming had a book called Moonraker, and they could use the title for this.
Yes. So as we said, that's the international campaign. It was a global hit, and Moonraker holds a special place in my heart because it was the actual first James Bond movie I saw in the cinema when it came out.
Yeah, totally agree. Chrissy said Moonraker makes you think of that. Yeah, well, just the word moon. It's just amazing what it conjures up. It just automatically conjures up space stuff. So, yeah, very good stuff. And I agree with you. I mean, I was watching these in the cinema at the time, and it was like, oh, that is awesome as.
Yeah. So the movie to follow up from Moonraker was the movie that they originally planned, and it was For Your Eyes Only. Now, I can imagine for audiences at the time, this was probably a bit of a step down after Moonraker. You can see through the 70s that they had upped the ante and upped the ante and upped the ante. And then by the time you get to Moonraker, how can you make it bigger than that? You really can't. So they went in the opposite direction, which is probably a good thing to do. For Your Eyes Only is more of a small-scale revenge assassination type movie. There's no sort of, global domination. It's more about busting a drugs ring and things like that. And it's more closer to how the book was originally filmed. So it wasn't as big as Moonraker, but it's still a great movie. And I guess when you watch them, it's kind of the logical progression for how the James Bond movies were going in the 70s.
And as Gavin mentioned earlier, that one was a Sheena Easton song. So, yes, if I recall, which was particularly groovy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of people only remember the Lotus from from The Spy Who Loved Me, but the Lotus was in quite a few movies. Now, you can see down the bottom here, it never had the same sort of gadgets and impact as the first one it was in, but it got quite a good joke out of this movie. And Bond turns up in the Lotus, and the henchmen go and look at it, and it's got like a sign on the window that says anti-theft protected. And they go to open the door, and the whole car explodes, like taking them all out. So the Lotus had been in the previous couple of movies. I guess Lotus had done a deal with the producers to sponsor their car, but they went the opposite direction, which is what I was saying I think this movie is all about. And they went for the little yellow Citroen. And with Bond behind the wheel, they still managed to do better than all the henchmen as it, jumps down through olive groves and all around Greece. Now, the other interesting thing, if you pull that photo up again, up the top there's a scene where Bond and the girl get dragged over a coral reef, and of course they get blood on them, so it attracts sharks. That is actually used from the book Live and Let Die. It was a sequence they wanted to film with Jane Seymour and Roger Moore, but they couldn't work out how to fit it into the movie. But it was such a good sequence that they pulled it out of Live and Let Die, remembered it, and put it in this one. Now, the other thing here is this is the first movie where they start to make jokes about James Bond's age, because Roger Moore is starting to get a lot older than the leading ladies. Now, the leading lady in this is fine, and they actually have quite good chemistry, but you can see the blonde there, and she is playing a figure skater Olympian, and she's only meant to be, I think, about 18 or 19, and she is very, very amorous to James Bond, and James Bond, surprisingly for Bond, has to keep turning her down because she's obviously way too young for him. And that is one of those things that audiences did start to notice after this movie, that Roger Moore was starting to get a little bit older.
There you go. How about that? Good stuff. Always room for some legs in the posters.
Now, here we go. This has to be one of the most iconic James Bond posters, doesn't it? James Bond in his pose is sort of echoed by the woman's legs with all the action going on around them, which kind of says this is what James Bond really focuses on. And it really does, again, focus on the Bond women and how sexy they are, and then James Bond himself being super cool, and then all the action going on around them. Bond is really the center of his world in these posters, isn't he?
Yeah, I reckon when they had the title, they thought, how are we going to market this? It's like, what image can you use? And someone somewhere said, obviously thought of the female's legs, and they said, all right, let's go with that. So,
well, what you can see that's really interesting interesting. In the top right hand corner there, the original poster is actually photographs. That is actually a photograph of the model and legs, and that's a photograph of Roger Moore. And then that was obviously such a striking composition that they went with that for the whole campaign. The other thing we have to bring up in this movie, and it's another one of my favorite pre-titles, they actually kill Blofeld in the opening titles of this before the movie starts, and he doesn't have anything to do with it. And they did that because there was a rival production coming up, Never Say Never Again, with Sean Connery, and they'd got the rights to use Blofeld. So they thought, well, we'll stuff them up. We're going to kill Blofeld in this, so their movie doesn't make any sense.
There you go. And as we pointed out, a couple of people pointed out, yeah, for her thighs only. Yes, very, very good. Now, this is interesting. So we just showed the poster of love, the woman's legs as you wear in the bikini or the underwear or whatever else. So obviously someone somewhere in, I'm not sure which country this would be, thought, that's probably a tad provocative. Let's make it a bit more G-rated for the kids. And when you look at this one way up here. She's wearing like sports pants.
Yes, so you're absolutely spot on. In some of them, you can see there is less swimming costume, and in some of them there is more. But the sports pants one was actually from Pakistan, where they said the original poster was indecent, so they had to change the poster to cover her up more, because even for James Bond, that was too racy.
The problem, I mean, I can't see what the post looks like up close, but when you look at this, if you're not paying attention, you think that's the front of her, yet clearly it's the back. So they needed to, redraw it a bit, but I can understand why they did it in the first place. And all things being equal, it doesn't mean you're going to sell less tickets by doing that, putting the sports pants on. So anyway, I guess, I mean, sex sells, we get that, but sometimes it's like, okay, guys, you're kind of pushing the envelope a bit too far on this one. But anyway, not to worry.
It is one of those posters where you really cannot tell what's going to happen in the movie from what's on the poster. It's just, you're going to get a sexy action-filled movie, and that's what you get.
Now, it's very funny, right? So we have it with some really, really cool titles. You had your Moonraker, Inspire, Love Me, and For Your Eyes Only. And this one, I mean, as a title, even by today's standards, you'd be scratching your head thinking, who would come up with this? Now, you're probably going to explain why they've come up with it, but I think this has got issues written all over it. Right. And of course, it just promotes 1,000,001 bad jokes. But what's the deal?
Well, let's face it. It was because Ian Fleming was basically a misogynist. A lot of his writing is very, very bad, and you couldn't get away with it today. When I was talking about the writing in The Spy Who Loves Me, which he hated, there is lines in it where it is quite disturbing. He says when women make love, they do like a bit of it to be close to rape and stuff like that. So he was a misogynist. And you've got to look at the names that he used in his books for the women. They didn't make up punny names for the movies. You had Holly Goodhead, Mary Goodnight, Pussy Galore. This was one of the things that he did in his writing, and it was obviously a deliberate thing. It was meant to be sexualized, and at the time it was probably quite risque. In fact, his books were kind of frowned on as being a bit too risque, and the only reason they went into the mainstream is because in one of those articles in an interview with President Kennedy, he said that I think Dr. No was one of his top 10 favorite novels, and they thought, if JFK reads it, it's okay for everyone. In America, when they released Goldfinger, they thought they would have to change the name of Pussy Galore because they didn't think it would get past the censors, but ultimately it did. But it was one of those things where I think now he comes from a generation of writing that you just couldn't write anymore. It would be, hounded off the internet kind of thing.
Yeah, you do wonder if this film was ever re-released, if they would change the name. But anyway, let's move on. So, yeah.
My favorite quote ever about the title is actually from Duran Duran, who wrote the theme for View to a Kill, where they said, "Thank goodness it wasn't Octopussy, because we don't know what we would have come up with to rhyme with that." So, and of course, this is one of the few James Bond movies where the title isn't mentioned in the actual music for it. So it was an issue, but they didn't change it. Octopussy is interesting because Octopussy was the final book by Ian Fleming, and it was actually a few books in one. It was Octopussy, The Living Daylights, I think it was View to a Kill and Property of a Lady, which kind of it turns up in Octopussy as well. So it was his last book, but it was a collection of stories that was in it.
Very good.
Now, it is one of those movies where you kind of see maybe the theatrics are getting a bit too much when it comes to Octopussy. The opening title sequence is fantastic. It has the mini one-man plane, which apparently they saw it at an air show and instantly said, well, we have to have that in a James Bond movie. So the entire, I think it's East German Checkpoint Charlie thing came from them seeing the plane and writing the sequence around that. I don't know if it's respectful for the character to have Roger Moore running around as a clown. It is one of the things he was worried about as well and didn't know if James Bond would do that. He thought this was going to be his last movie because he was getting a bit old in the tooth and his back was getting a bit sore for it. And he asked if he could have Maud Adams as the Bond girl because he had got on particularly well with her when they made The Man with the Golden Gun. And he thought she was more age appropriate for a spy like James Bond to be hanging around with rather than the next young thing that they put in the movie with him.
Yeah, I've never seen Octopussy, so I just wasn't interested. So it was that. But yeah, you showed the picture of him done as the clown. I thought that's interesting because one of the things they always said about James Bond is he never wears disguises. So I don't know what the deal was with that, and that was his thing. He just didn't wear disguises. I thought, oh, okay. So they've obviously chucked that bit of canon out the window. So
yeah. So Octopussy was, I guess you would say, a good, solid movie. They were competing at the time in the cinema at the same time with Never Say Never Again. And out of the two movies, it is the head and shoulders better movie. Never Say Never Again is a bit of a tired movie remake of Thunderball, and this is a totally original movie. It has some fantastic international locations. They go to India, I think, for the first time in a Bond movie. They have floating palaces and rajas and things like that. It is a good Bond movie, but you'd say it was an average one.
What I find interesting with the pictures, and I noticed this earlier, right? So clearly with the design here, they've extended his legs to be far longer than he should be. And of course, with her legs, are even longer again. And it's obviously intentional, but geez, it looks bloody weird, doesn't it?
It does. I do think the images in this are quite good. With Octopussy, they've gone with the whole eight arms to hold him kind of thing. Her nickname is Octopussy. I think it only gets used once or twice in the whole movie. And she wears a sort of silk overthrow with a blue ring octopus on because they're deadly, of course, which is a little Australian nod that you don't get in any Bond movies. I think he's been to just about every country except for Australia and New Zealand, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I like the logo, but I noticed that there's only 6 arms here instead of 8. But I suppose putting 8 in is a bit too much. And they go, doesn't matter. People can't count. But no, I definitely I didn't see this one. So yeah.
And there's the international ad campaign for Octopussy, and again they used a lot of the same images as they did in the British version. A lot of them I think they obviously gave them the main images and transparency, so they kind of built up the image where sometimes it would be just James Bond and Octopussy, and then sometimes they would have different images in it totally. There are a couple of just totally different ones there. I think the interesting one again is the German one, which is just the orange poster with James Bond on that really doesn't entice you into the movies at all. And then there's a few different ones for that. I find through the 70s, usually the print campaign was pretty universal across the board. Octopussy had a few different ones for the international markets.
Yeah, Christy said the arms don't match up to the woman. Yeah, I guess they just, from an artist's perspective, it was just the overall impact, and that was the way it was meant to go. All right, so it's almost about to hit 10 o'clock. We were going to continue on with Believe It or Not, Never Say Never Again. What did you want to do? Do you want to call it a night now or what?
Well, what we can probably do, it's getting to 10. We can probably call it a night, and we'll just do the night of the 80s one in a different show, because there isn't as many movies through the 80s when it kind of James Bond fell out of favour. So that was the we hit the 80s with Octopussy, but that was the 70s James Bond movies with Roger Moore. You can see that there was a particularly strong run of movies. None of those movies that you would call shockers. A few stand head and shoulders above the others. The print media for them is fantastic. A lot of people collect them, and all the posters go for quite a lot of money if you've got the original ones, especially the cinema ones. The international ones are hard to find, and like most James Bond stuff, it is sort of globally collected and everybody loves it.
And it also started that huge debate: which do you prefer, Sean Connery or Roger Moore? It was just like it raged for years, decades. Even today, I think it's almost like one of those ultimate questions.
Yeah.
And so he did well for himself, and it was a good time, I think, for the cinematic audience to really get back into the whole into the action flick. It sort of like came of its own
Yes.
in the 70s, and it's sort of led to some bigger and better things, which is where we are today. And well done to everyone involved, even if one of those movies had a somewhat of a dodgy title. But let's not worry about that, shall we? So there you go. Very, very cool. All right, so we're going to buzz off this tonight. Any final words before we say goodnight, Mr. Aaron?
No, thanks for everyone for being around tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. We probably won't do the next James Bond next week. We'll come back to the 80s ones maybe in a month or two and sort of round it off. And who knows, we might come right up to the modern ones down the track as well.
And before I forget, I should have said this at the start of the show, completely forgot. Today is the 45th birthday of Star Wars: A New Hope. Yay, T came out 45 years ago today, which for many fans is officially Star Wars Day. Yay, team, for that. So if you do have any James Bond or Roger Moore collectibles, make sure you keep them all mint in box.
Or rip them off the card.
Don't do that. Okay, see you guys. Take care.
Have a good night.
Bye.